When we hear the word superpower, the only thing that comes to our mind is magic. But there are superpowers beyond magic that some humans possess that defy not only the laws of science and nature, but also leave scientists in shock. Here are 20 people with superpowers caught on camera that left everyone in awe. Number 1. The levitating man that defies the laws of physics. Now, you may have encountered performers levitating on the streets in your travels around the world. Although it seems highly unnatural, the floating man illusion is usually set up with 1 or 2 people. The performer seems as though he is hovering in midair, with his entire body weight supported by the strength of one hand. But what this man on the beach has done is something very extraordinary that is even beyond the explanation of science. As you can see in the video, the person is literally floating in the air without the help of any supporting structure at all. This is what defying physics looks like. Now, when this man was asked how he pulled off the trick, he simply said, "with magnets." The guy had buried some magnets in the sand strategically, then hid some of them in his clothes. His friend then turns on the power and he begins floating in the air. Number 2. The fastest human calculator. Many of us hate maths, but just imagine for a second how it would feel to have the ability to calculate all the answers. Mind faster than any electronic calculator. Scott Flansburgh was dubbed the human calculator and was listed in the Guinness Book of World Records for mental calculation speed. With calculator accuracy, Flansburgh can mentally add, subtract, multiply, divide, and even find the square and cube roots of any number instantly. In 2001 and 2003, he broke the record for adding the same number to itself more times in 15 seconds than someone could do with a calculator. In 1999, he invented a 13-month calculator using 0 as a day, month, and year, which he called the Human Calculator Calendar. Scott is an educator by day, media personality by night, is helping people to master their mental mathematics. Number 3. The Magnet Man. Magnets are fun to play with, but have you ever seen a human magnet? Lu Thao Lin of Malaysia is called many names like the Magnet Man, Magnetic Man, and Mr. Magnet because of his ability to stick metal objects to his body. Metal objects that weigh up to 2 kilograms individually and 36 kilograms in total can stick to his body through magnetism, and he's even pulled a car using his magnetic ability. Many studies have been conducted on his body, and according to scientists at the University of Technology, Malaysia, he has no magnetic field within his body. In fact, his skin exhibits very high levels of friction that provides a suction effect, which leads to the objects sticking to him. Lu's ability to attract metallic objects is purely genetic and is passed to his son and 3 grandchildren as well. He's been mentioned in the Malaysia Book of Records and has performed in many charity events for the welfare of society. Number 4. The Battery Man. Just like the Magnet Man, there exists a Battery Man who is revered for allowing dangerous levels of electricity to course throughout his body and live to tell the tale. Biba Strua can withstand million-volt shocks, store energy, and even cook sausages in his bare hands. He's like a human conductor who's able to withstand high-voltage shocks that would actually kill anyone else. He does hold 2 Guinness World Records, with his first record being set in 1983 when he took on 20,000 volts and lived to talk about it without as much as a scratch. Then in 2003, he became the quickest man to heat up a cup of water in just 1 minute and 37 seconds. Struha has lived most of his life as a human electrode, leaving the people around him in disbelief. Since discovering his incredible ability to withstand electric shocks, he's made a living for himself and his family by performing high-voltage feats, along with running an electrotherapy clinic from his home, where he treats people suffering from conditions like arthritis by simply touching them with his electrically charged hands. He's truly one of a kind, with no competition on the planet. Number 5. Wim Hof, a.k.a. the Iceman. Finland's Arctic Circle may not seem like a great place to run a marathon barefoot and in only shorts. That is, unless you're Wim Hof. Wim has attained roughly 24 world records by completing marvelous feats of physical endurance in conditions that would likely kill others. The 59-year-old Dutchman has climbed Mount Everest in Nepal and Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, Africa's tallest peak, wearing only shorts. He holds the Guinness World Record for the longest swim under ice and has also endured the extremes of dry heat, running a half marathon through the Namib Desert without drinking any water, and more. According to researchers, Hoff is able to use his mind to artificially induce a stress response in his body that helps him to resist the effects of the cold. Hoff activates an internal painkiller function by conducting breathing exercises, then exposing himself to a threat like the extreme sudden cold. According to Hoff, anyone could learn to do what he's able to do just by simply using the Wim Hof method, which involves a series of breathing exercises that anyone could replicate. A man who sits in buckets of ice cubes for hours at a time, walks up the Himalayas like it was a summer stroll through a wine vineyard in his shorts. Definitely intriguing, and a mystery that scientists is still trying to solve. Number 6. Children who see like dolphins. Now, if you've swam or surfed in the water, you would know that it's very difficult to see clearly underwater, but the children of the Moken community have developed a unique ability that enables them to see like dolphins underwater. Now, usually when you go underwater, everything is so blurry that the eye doesn't even try to accommodate because it's not a normal reflex. But the children of the Moken community could see underwater with total clarity. Moken children can make their pupils smaller and change their lens shape, which is a similar adaptation to seals and dolphins. This ability is found only in Moken children, not as adults, as lenses become less flexible with age. While this strikes as a very different phenomenon according to studies, with just a little practice, unique vision of Moken children can be accessible to any young person. Number 7. The King Tooth. Now, you may have heard about the strongest man on the planet, but this is a man with the strongest teeth. And by strongest, I mean hauling a 328-ton train over more than 9 feet along the tracks at a railway station. This man is dubbed the King of Teeth due to his ability to move heavy objects with the help of those teeth. He pulled a 7-coach train using a steel rope clenched within his mouth, all in an attempt to set a new world record for the heaviest weight pulled with teeth. His neck muscles strained and his face contorted as he hauled the nearly 328-ton train over more than 9 feet along the tracks at a railway station in Kuala Lumpur. Dozens of onlookers clapped and chanted, and when he sat down and pulled the train, holding both tracks for support and pushing his booted feet against the wooden rafters to propel himself backwards, they all cheered him on. He stated that the reason behind his strength comes from an Indian form of meditation, along with daily jaw training. Well, it is painful to watch, but any toothpaste brand would give anything for him to endorse their product, because he is the visual representation of the strongest in the world. Number 8. The Bee Man. Do you remember bee scenes from movies? Because the next person I'm going to show you is one who has trained bees to perform action scenes in movies, television shows, and commercials. Norm Gray, emeritus professor at UC Davis, has kept bees for 69 years and was known as the world's best bee wrangler before he went into retirement. He once trained bees to fly into his mouth to collect food from a small sponge saturated with his patented artificial nectar. He holds the Guinness World Record for holding 109 bees inside of his closed mouth for 10 seconds. He's also the guy behind the bee suit record in the Guinness World Records. He drew widespread acclaim for wearing a head-to-toe suit of clustered bees, all while buzzing with his B-flat clarinet. Now he's 83 years old and cannot continue his hobby of being amongst the bees, so he spends most of his time feeding wild bees in his yard, as some folks do with wild birds. He's authored more than 100 publications, which includes scientific papers, chapters out of books, and popular articles in beekeeping trade journals, and is helping young beekeepers to learn more about the art. Number 9. The Girl with the X-ray Vision. This Russian girl claims to have the ability to see inside of human bodies. When Natasha Demkina was 10, she claimed that she could see through people's flesh and detect their injuries and scars. She recalled her first experience with the phenomenon when she saw inside of her mother's body and began to tell her about the organs that she could see. Initially, people thought the young girl simply had an overactive imagination and was just a child that was playing a game. However, later it would become very clear that she was not making things up, but could actually see inside of people on the cellular level. Many individuals have relied on her medical judgment, and even instead of opinions from trained professionals. After getting so much attention through the internet, she was invited to a British show to test her abilities. She was asked to analyze a group of people and then tell them what she thought, if anything, was wrong with them, and the majority said that she was correct. She was able to pick up on a migraine condition in one woman, endometriosis in another, and a heart defect in a man. Natasha identified some medical ailments, however, she often diagnosed a lot more that wasn't there. While some people believe that she has psychic abilities, others just believe it's her luck. She's good at reading the outward signs of any illness instead of seeing through a person's body. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Number 10. The Rubber Boy. Some people are just more flexible than others. Take rhythmic gymnastics. They can bend their bodies and stretch their limbs like there's no limit to their limberness, and they do it all with a smile on their faces and a flying ribbon in their hands. Circus acrobats are even more impressive. Aerialists who fly and stretch their limbs all the way to the sky, contortionists who flex and bend their bodies like a pretzel, and artists who perform such feats are certainly much more flexible than the average human being. Daniel Browning Smith, or the Rubber Boy as he's commonly known, is a completely different story. A contortionist unlike anyone else in the entire world. Named the world's most flexible man by the Guinness Book of World Records, Rubber Boy has an unmatchable ability to bend and stretch his body into the most unnatural shapes and positions. His father discovered his unique power at the age of 4 when he saw him jump off the bunk bed and land in an incredible gymnast split during a roughhousing session with his siblings. Since then, Daniel has developed a fascination with contortionism and resolved to become the greatest contortionist the world has ever seen. With his father's support, hard work, and professional training, he managed to develop his talent into a great superpower, holding 7 world records for extreme, unrivaled flexibility. Daniel has also created amazing stunts for films, television, and commercials, and his work can be seen in such films as Paranormal Activity 3 and You Don't Mess with the Zohan. He's drastically cheaper than computer-generated imagery and easier to work with. Better-looking results because it's actually real. Number 11. The Lion Whisperer. Many people have a very powerful bond with cats and dogs, but having a close relationship with lions is certainly uncommon and definitely dangerous. Kevin Richardson, also known as the Lion Whisperer, can speak to the big cats. Be it a ferocious cheetah or an intimidating lion, Kevin befriends them and makes them dance to his tunes. He would be born in Johannesburg, South Africa on the 8th of October 1974 and spent his childhood in the neighborhood of Grove. From a very young age, it would become apparent that he had a gift for interacting with all animals, and as he grew up, his affection for animals also grew with him. He became friends with the owner of a lion park, and his friendship with the owner would lead him to be devoting more time to the captive animals being rehabilitated at the center. When he left the lion park, he managed a special facility called the Kingdom of the White Lion, where he cared for more than 26 lions, numerous hyenas, leopards, and various other indigenous animals. Finally, in 2013, he was able to come up with enough money to establish the Kevin Richardson Wildlife Sanctuary. Kevin has a very special bond with lions, hugging and cuddling them, and his relationship with them is very strange, yet it also is quite unique. Experience. Number 12. The Monkey King. Yodi Raj, aka the Monkey King, is a natural rock climber, and that is his superpower. Raj is famous for scaling many things without any safety harness. He does not climb for sport, but he does so to entertain visitors and onlookers alike. He's also the only person to have scaled Karnataka's highest waterfall, the 830-foot Jog Falls, climbing against the flow. Amongst all of his accomplishments, he would also free solo climb a clock tower in just over 15 minutes, using no harness, but only chalk to use grip. Yodi learned his cool rock climbing from the monkeys, and he knows their language. And if you're looking to try something like this, you can also observe the monkeys and perhaps try as he did, though I probably would not recommend that. Number 13. The mystic who survived without food and water. Surviving without food and water for a couple of days may be believable, but surviving without it for years is completely absurd. However, this devotee of Amba Mata claims that he hasn't had a morsel of food since the year 1940. How then would he be able to survive, you may ask? Well, that's exactly one of India's unsolved mysteries. He was once locked into a room for 15 days for observational studies, where it would be found that he was perfectly healthy without any food or water. He died 2 years ago, but throughout his entire life he claimed that he didn't need to eat, drink any water because the goddess had sustained him. He claimed to have spent 76 years of his life without consuming water, and had left his parents' house at a very young age in the pursuit of a spiritual experience. His followers claim that he had stopped taking food and water at the age of 18. Studies say that the man did have some extreme form of adaptation to starvation and water restriction, and while people may think that it's a baseless claim, others actually believe that it's true. But what do you think? Could someone really survive without food and water for more than 70 years? Or does this have to be a sham? Number 14. The blind boy who could see. Have you seen someone so courageous that after losing one of their senses, they never lost hope and developed an alternative? Well, Ben Underwood was completely blind from the age of 3, but actually taught himself to use echolocation to live a full and active life. He would be diagnosed with retinal cancer at the age of 2 and had his eyes removed by the time that he was years old. Like dolphins, he uses sound to detect the exact location of a thing. This ability helps him to participate in activities like running, basketball, bicycle riding, football. Unfortunately, though, in 2009, this superhero would lose his life to cancer, but it's still an inspiration for people all throughout the world. Number 15. Man with the stretchiest skin. A flexible body may be common, but flexible skin isn't. Gary Turner is able to stretch the skin of his stomach to a distinctive 15.8 centimeters due to a rare medical condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a disorder of the connective tissues affecting the skin, ligaments, and internal organs. From a very young age, Gary knew that his skin was different and discovered his skin was stretchy from the tummy, neck, arms, and so on. But his hands and feet were not that rubbery. Although he has been listed in the Guinness Book of Records, and stretching doesn't hurt him at all, other aspects of the syndrome are very painful. For example, the joints. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome has no cure yet. In serious cases, it can actually cause the fatal collapse or rupture of blood vessels. Number 16. The strongest Shaolin monk. Until now, we've discussed people who possessed one superpower, but these Shaolin monks can perform incredible feats of mental and physical prowess that appear to be impossible. They balance precariously for hours in a crouching position on wooden posts that are buried in the ground. They bang their heads against each other to harden their skulls, and repeatedly strike vessels of water and other objects to develop their palm strength. One Shaolin monk named Zhao Rui trained his body to withstand extremely sharp objects. The skin on his temple doesn't crack when someone uses a power drill against it, and he can also bend an iron bar against his throat and lie unharmed on top of spikes. All the Shaolin monks possess great power and can do things an average person could not even comprehend. Number 17. The artist with photographic memory. This artist, Stephen Wiltshire, is one of Britain's best-known artists who got diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. He didn't say his first word until the age of 5, but still, as a child, he could sketch stunningly accurate images of wildlife and caricatures of his teachers. Later, he would begin drawing buildings that he saw around London in impressive detail, and his older sister Annette would take him to the home of a school friend who lived on the 14th floor of an apartment building so that he could see the sprawling of the city. He would marvel at its layout and landmarks, and from that point on, says that his passion became obsessive. Stephen is gifted with the most brilliant photographic memory, where he can remember the smallest of things, draw them with just one glance. And this is a very cool superpower that anyone can have. Number 18. Monks who can warm up their bodies with their minds. In a monastery in northern India, thinly clad Tibetan monks practice tumo, which helps their mind control physical processes that once were thought to be uncontrollable. Tibetan monks possess remarkable capacities for controlling their oxygen intake, body temperatures, and even brain waves, and have the ability to raise their body temperatures to feverish levels by combining visualization and specialized breathing. In one particular experiment, the individuals took wet sheets and wrapped them around their cold, naked bodies. Dr. Benson, the director emeritus of the Benson Henry Institute and mind-body medicine professor of medicine, carried out his research in the 1980s. He determined that finger and toe temperatures increased due to vasodilation, which involves widening the blood vessels to reduce blood pressure. Increasing the body temperature just by using your physiology is very impressive and unique to witness. Number 19. The unbelievable memory. You may have seen the movie Rain Man, but you may not know the character Raymond Babbitt was actually inspired by a real person named Kim Peek. Kim had a rare condition called savant syndrome, which gave him amazing talents that included phenomenal memory. In 1951, Kim was born with a condition that caused his head to be abnormally large, and when doctors looked into it a little more, they found that he had damage to his cerebellum, and the bundle of nerves that usually connects the two hemispheres of the brain was missing. When Kim was 9 months old, doctors told his parents never be able to walk or talk, and recommended that he live in an institution, an idea that his parents strongly dismissed. But when Kim was just over a year old, he began memorizing entire books that his parents had read to him. And that was after only hearing them one time. Even more amazing, after he had heard a story, he would place the book upside down on his shelf to show that he knew it by heart and to make sure that nobody would try to read it to him again. And he remembered up to 98% of what he had read. It's estimated that within his lifetime, Kim read and memorized as many as 12,000 books. While people with savant syndrome often become a bit of an expert in one or two subjects, Kim had boasted at least 15. Kim's talent stretched much further than memorizing books. He also memorized addresses, maps, and musical compositions. And in 1985, screenwriter Barry Morrow met Kim Peek by chance, so blown away that he decided to write his story. It would eventually become the movie known as Rain Man. Following the film, Kim received lots of requests to make public appearances. Together with his father, he set off around the world promoting messages of equality. Sadly, in the year 2009, at the age of 58, Kim had a heart attack and passed away at his home. Although his life was fairly short, there's little doubt that he made an enormous impact the entire world. Number 20. Indian chef who fries fish with bare hands in boiling oil. And last but not least, this street chef in Delhi, who works in a restaurant called Ganesh Restaurant, is known to pluck out fried fish using bare hands from boiling hot oil. This restaurant is not only famous for its delicious, but also for the unique way in which it's cooked. According to the 65-year-old man, the art of putting his hands into the hot oil is an experience. He says that he did it once and nothing happened, so then he did it again. Later, he began doing it all the time, and it became a habit. He says now hot oil doesn't burn his hands at all. Never suffered any burns, bruises, blisters, or ill effects, even when he fries the fish in the oil that's heated up to 200 degrees Celsius. Now, he hopes that his sons will carry on his hand-frying tradition. It's been 60 years since the place was established, started by their grandfathers. Now the two sons look after the business. If you want to see this man putting his hand in oil live, go and visit the shop in India and see his superpower. So,